The verdict of the void. The champagne had just been poured when the world changed forever. Dr. James Morrison stood in the International Space Cooperation Center in Tokyo, surrounded by representatives from every nation on Earth. 3 months ago, humanity had received the signal. 27 days ago, the Galactic Union had responded to Earth's reply. Today, first contact would become reality. James should have felt excitement. Instead, his hands trembled as he held his glass. He had spent 30 years studying the cosmos, dreaming of this moment. But something about the Union's messages had bothered him. They were cold, efficient, lacking the warmth he had imagined would come with meeting other intelligent life. His colleague, Dr. Yuki Tanaka, noticed his expression and leaned closer. "You look like you're attending a funeral, not making history," she whispered. James forced a smile. "Just nervous, I suppose." The room fell silent as the large display screens flickered to life. The image that appeared made several people gasp. The alien was humanoid in the loosest sense, standing nearly 3 meters tall with crystalline skin that refracted light into rainbow patterns. Its eyes were pure silver, showing no pupils or emotion. When it spoke, the translation came through speakers placed around the room. "I am Overseer Thrain of the Galactic Union. I bring greetings to the species of Earth." President Chen of the United Earth Council stepped forward, her prepared speech ready. She had practiced it 100 times, words of hope and friendship carefully chosen by the best diplomats humanity had ever produced. "Overseer Thrain, on behalf of all humanity, we welcome you. This is a momentous day for our species. We have dreamed of this meeting for generations. We hope to learn from you to share our culture and to take our place among the civilized species of the galaxy." Thrain's crystalline face showed no reaction. "I must inform you that this communication serves a different purpose than you anticipate. The Galactic Union does not extend membership to your world." The room erupted in confused murmurs. President Chen's smile faltered. "I'm sorry, I don't understand. We received your signal. You initiated contact." "Contact was initiated as a courtesy," Thrain continued, its voice devoid of emotion. "Your solar system lies in the path of a cosmic phenomenon we call the cascade. It is a chain reaction of collapsing dark matter structures that consumes everything in its path. The wavefront will reach your system in approximately 9.3 of your years." James felt the blood drain from his face. He had read about theoretical dark matter collapse scenarios. They were extinction-level events. No, they were worse than extinction. They were erasure. Everything touched by a dark matter cascade simply ceased to exist, matter breaking down at the quantum level. "Then you're here to help us evacuate," President Chen said, her voice steady despite the shock. "We have nearly 11 billion people. We'll need time to organize, but with your technology..." "Evacuation is impossible," Thrain interrupted. "The Galactic Union conducted a thorough analysis of your species. Your technological development is insufficient. Your social structures are primitive. The resources required to evacuate and integrate your population would exceed acceptable limits." Admiral Catherine Rivers, head of the newly formed United Earth Defense Force, stepped forward. She was a tall woman with steel-gray hair and eyes that had seen combat in 3 different Earth conflicts. "You're saying we're not worth saving?" "I am saying that the cost-benefit analysis does not support a rescue operation of this magnitude," Thrain replied. "However, the Union recognizes your species shows potential. We are authorized to offer transport for up to 100,000 individuals, scientists, artists, genetic samples to preserve your species' unique characteristics. This represents 0.9% of your population, but it ensures your species survives." The room exploded into chaos. People shouted in a dozen languages. Someone threw their champagne glass at the screen. Security moved to restore order, but James barely noticed. His mind was racing through the mathematics. 100,000 people. How would they choose? How could they choose? President Chen's voice cut through the noise. "Overseer Thrain, surely there must be another option. Help us develop technology to escape the cascade ourselves. Share your knowledge. Give us a chance to save our world." "Your species lacks the fundamental understanding required," Thrain said. "The Galactic Union has studied the cascade for 14,000 of your years. We have lost 47 member species to various cascade events. There is no defense. There is no escape for a planet. Only individuals can be saved, and only if they are worth the effort." Admiral Rivers moved to stand beside President Chen. Her voice was quiet, but it carried authority that made everyone listen. Then our answer is no. Thrain's silver eyes focused on her. You reject the Union's offer? We reject the idea that 99.9% of humanity is expendable, Rivers said. If we can't save everyone, then we'll die together. At least we'll die as humans, not as pets in your collection. James found himself nodding. Around the room, despite the fear he saw in every face, people were standing straighter. The mayor of Tokyo, a grandmother of 5, spoke up in heavily accented English. We have faced extinction before. Ice ages, plagues, world wars. We survived because we survived together. Your sentiment is admirable but illogical, Thrain replied. You are choosing death over survival. We're choosing dignity over cowardice, your President Chen said. Tell your Galactic Union that humanity thanks them for their generous offer, but we decline. We will face the cascade on our own terms. Thrain stood motionless for a long moment. When it finally spoke again, its voice carried something that might have been curiosity. I have made first contact with 43 species. You are the first to reject salvation. I do not understand your choice, but I will convey your decision. The Union will seal this sector to prevent cascade contamination. No ships will enter or leave. You have 9.3 years. I hope you find meaning in your remaining time. The screen went black. For several seconds, no one moved. Then President Chen turned to face the assembled representatives. We have work to do. The next 6 hours were a blur of emergency meetings. James found himself in a conference room with the world's leading scientists, military commanders, and political leaders. Coffee flowed freely. No one mentioned the irony that they had gathered to celebrate first contact and were now planning humanity's last stand. Dr. Tanaka pulled up display after display of data about dark matter cascades. According to the Union's data, which they did provide, the cascade moves at approximately 40% of light speed. When it hits, it will destabilize the quantum structure of everything in the solar system. Planets, sun, asteroids, everything will break down into base particles, and then those particles will break down further. Can we stop it? Admiral Rivers asked. The Galactic Union couldn't stop it, Tanaka replied. They've tried 47 times and lost 47 civilizations. They have technology millions of years more advanced than ours. That wasn't my question, Rivers said. Can we stop it? James cleared his throat. The Union's approach was based on their understanding of physics, but they've never encountered the cascade from our perspective. They've never been desperate enough to try truly radical solutions. What kind of solutions? President Chen asked. James pulled up his own research work he had done years ago that had been dismissed as too theoretical. The cascade is a dark matter phenomenon. We can't see dark matter directly. We can only see its effects on normal matter. But what if we could interact with it? What if we could create a quantum disruption field that interferes with the collapse chain reaction? The Union dismissed quantum disruption theory decades ago. Another scientist objected. They said it was mathematically impossible. They said it was impossible with their technology, James corrected. But we're not them. We think differently. We approach problems from different angles. Maybe our primitive minds will see something their advanced ones missed. Admiral Rivers stood up. Here's what I know. The Galactic Union wrote us off. They gave us 9 years to die quietly. I say we spend those 9 years proving them wrong. Even if we fail. Even if the cascade destroys us, we'll fail fighting. We'll fail trying everything we can imagine and a dozen things we can't. Because that's what humans do. President Chen nodded. I'm authorizing the formation of Project Last Stand. Every resource, every mind, every nation united toward one goal. We're going to save our world or die trying. Admiral Rivers, you'll command military operations. Dr. Morrison, Dr. Tanaka, you'll lead scientific research. We have 9 years. Let's make them count. The window looking out at Tokyo's lights. Somewhere above that sky, the Galactic Union was sealing off this sector, writing off humanity as a lost cause. They had no idea what they had just done. They had given humans something more dangerous than any weapon. They had given them nothing left to lose. Dr. Tanaka joined him at the window. Do you really think we can stop the cascade? I have no idea, James admitted. But I know we're going to try with everything we have. The Union expects us to spend 9 years making peace with death. Instead, we're going to spend 9 years becoming something they never expected. And what's that? James smiled, and for the first time since the meeting began, it was genuine. Dangerous. Below them, Tokyo continued its nighttime rhythm. unaware that the celebration of first contact had become the declaration of humanity's greatest war. But soon everyone would know. Soon the entire world would unite behind a single purpose. The Galactic Union had made their judgment. They had declared humanity unworthy of salvation. They were about to learn that humanity had never needed permission to survive. They had never asked for mercy from the universe, and they had never, in all their violent, beautiful, stubborn history, accepted extinction quietly. The war had begun, not against an enemy that could be reasoned with or negotiated with, but against the very fabric of reality itself. And humanity, abandoned by the stars, would enter that battlefield with everything they had. 9 years. It wasn't much time, but it was enough to show the galaxy what humans could do when they had nothing left to lose and everything to fight for. Fire in the dark 18 months had passed since the abandonment. Commander Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the UEDS Defiance, humanity's first quantum-capable warship, and watched her homeworld shrink in the viewing screen. Earth looked peaceful from this distance, a blue marble wrapped in white clouds. No one watching would guess that every continent below had been transformed into a massive factory of innovation and desperation. Elena's reflection in the dark screen showed a woman who had aged years and months. She had been a shuttle pilot before first contact, ferrying supplies to the International Space Station. Now she commanded a fleet of 40 ships, each one packed with experimental technology that would have been considered science fiction 2 years ago. Some of that technology would save them. Some of it would probably kill them. They would find out which soon enough. "Commander, we're approaching the designated coordinates," her navigation officer reported. Lieutenant Chen was 23 years old, young enough that he still believed they could win. Elena envied him that. "All ships report status," Elena ordered. One by one, the fleet commanders checked in. They had names like Resilience, Determination, Last Hope, and Spite. That last one had been Admiral Rivers' suggestion. "When you're flying into certain death," Rivers had said, "a sense of humor helps." "Fleet is ready, Commander," her tactical officer said. "Quantum disruption generators are charged. We're as prepared as we'll ever be." Elena took a deep breath. Outside the ship, space looked perfectly normal. But instruments told a different story. They were approaching the edge of the cascade, the wall of collapsing dark matter that was slowly consuming this sector of the galaxy. It was still 9 light-years away, but its effects could already be measured. Reality itself was becoming unstable here, quantum particles behaving in ways that violated every law of physics. Dr. James Morrison's voice came through from the science vessel accompanying the fleet. "Commander Vasquez, we're getting readings. The cascade edge is exhibiting the predicted quantum fluctuations. This is it. This is where we test everything." Everything. Elena almost laughed. Everything was 18 months of work by every scientist, engineer, and dreamer on Earth. Everything was Dr. Morrison's quantum disruption theory, dismissed by the Galactic Union as impossible. Everything was humanity's refusal to accept death quietly. The Galactic Union had been wrong about humans in many ways, but their biggest mistake was assuming humanity would approach the cascade problem the same way the Union had. The Union had tried to stop it with force, with massive energy weapons and defensive shields. They had failed 47 times. Humanity had looked at the problem differently. If the cascade was a chain reaction of collapsing dark matter, what if you could interrupt the chain? Not stop it, but redirect it, deflect it, make it go around instead of through? The Union had said it was mathematically impossible. Dr. Morrison had responded with calculations that suggested it was only mostly impossible, which meant there was a chance. A mostly impossible chance was still better than certain death. "Begin deployment," Elena ordered. The fleet scattered into a precise formation, each ship taking its designated position. They formed a grid pattern spanning thousands of kilometers, each vessel carrying a quantum disruption generator. The generators were massive devices that took up most of each ship's interior space. They were also completely untested at this scale. The largest test had been in Earth orbit, and it had worked for about 6 seconds before overloading and nearly destroying the test ship. They needed these generators to work for at least 6 hours. "All ships report generators online," Lieutenant Chen said. "Synchronization protocols engaged." Elena watched her tactical display as 40 points of light began to pulse in perfect rhythm. The generators had to fire simultaneously, creating a synchronized quantum disruption field that would, in theory, create a bubble of stable space-time. The cascade couldn't consume what it couldn't touch. That was the theory. Theories had a way of falling apart when faced with reality. Commence firing sequence in 10 seconds, Elena said. 9, 8, 7. She thought about her brother, who had joined the ground-based defense projects. She thought about her mother, who had volunteered for the manufacturing plants. She thought about billions of people who had spent 18 months transforming their world, all trusting that someone, somewhere would find a way to save them. 3, 2, 1, fire. The universe screamed. Elena had no other way to describe it. Every sensor on the ship went wild. The viewing screen showed space itself rippling like water, colors that had no names bleeding across reality. The quantum disruption generators were pumping out more energy than some stars, and that energy was interacting with the unstable space at the edge of the cascade. Generators, holding at 70% capacity, her engineering officer shouted over alarms that were blaring throughout the ship. Hull stress increasing. We're reading quantum fluctuations inside the ship. Elena gripped her command chair as the deck bucked beneath her. Through the viewing screen, she saw something impossible. The wall of the cascade, the advancing edge of oblivion, was bending. Not stopping, but bending, curving away from the fleet's position. It's working. Dr. Morrison's voice came through, filled with wonder. The disruption field is creating a stable pocket. The cascade is flowing around us instead of through us. Commander, it's actually working. But Elena was watching her readouts, and what she saw chilled her blood. How long can we maintain this? Current power consumption suggests 4 hours maximum before generator burnout, her engineer replied. We're pushing these systems beyond their design limits. 4 hours. They needed 6. Elena made her decision in an instant. All ships increase generator output to 85%. Route all non-essential power to the generators. Life support to minimum. Weapons offline. Everything we have goes to keeping this field stable. Commander, 85% means we definitely won't make 6 hours, her engineer protested. Then we'll make 5, Elena said, and we'll pray that's enough to prove the concept works. Navigation, prepare to pull back at 4 hours 30 minutes. We're not dying here today. We're taking this data home. The next 4 hours were the longest of Elena's life. 3 ships reported critical generator failures and had to drop out of formation. The field weakened but held. 2 more ships suffered hull breaches from quantum instabilities. Their crews evacuated in pods that the other ships retrieved. But the field held, and the cascade continued to bend around them. At 4 hours and 28 minutes, Elena gave the order to withdraw. The fleet broke formation and burned their engines at maximum thrust, racing away from the edge of the cascade. Behind them, as the disruption field collapsed, space snapped back to normal with a visible shockwave that chased them for 30,000 kilometers before dissipating. When they finally reached safe distance, Elena allowed herself to breathe. Damage report. 5 ships heavily damaged but recoverable. 37 casualties, no deaths. All data recorded and transmitted to Earth Command. Lieutenant Chen was grinning despite the haggard exhaustion on his face. Commander, we did it. We actually did it. Elena pulled up the data herself, hardly believing it. The recordings showed clearly what had happened. The cascade could be deflected. Not stopped, not destroyed, but redirected. It was like trying to hold back an ocean with your hands, impossible. But digging a channel to make the ocean flow around you? That was just engineering. Open a channel to Earth Command, Elena ordered. Priority 1. Admiral Rivers' face appeared on the screen. She looked as exhausted as Elena felt. Behind her, Elena could see the command center buzzing with activity. Commander Vasquez, we've been watching your telemetry. Tell me that data is real. It's real, Admiral. The quantum disruption field works. We can deflect the cascade. Not forever. Not with our current power generation, but we can do it. We proved the Galactic Union wrong. Rivers leaned back in her chair, and for a moment she looked like she might cry. Instead, she laughed, a sound of pure relief and triumph. Those crystalline bastards said it was impossible. They said we were too primitive to understand. Do you know what I'm going to do with this data, Commander? Build bigger generators? Elena guessed. Oh, we're doing that. Dr. Morrison's team is already scaling up the design. But first, I'm sending this data to the Galactic Union. I'm showing them exactly what we accomplished with our primitive minds and our impossible theories. I want them to see what humans can do when we're told something can't be done. Elena smiled. They abandoned us, Admiral. They probably won't even watch the message. Then they'll miss the show, Rivers replied. Because this is just the beginning. You bought us proof of concept, Commander. Now we're going to save our world. Return to Earth. You and your crew have earned a rest, and we have a lot of work ahead. The channel closed. Elena looked around her bridge at her exhausted, triumphant crew. They had lost ships. They had nearly died. And they had proven that humanity didn't need the Galactic Union's permission to survive. Set course for Earth, Elena ordered. And someone find me coffee. Real coffee, none of that recycled stuff. We just fought reality itself and won. We deserve the good stuff. As the Defiance turned toward home, Elena thought about Overseer Thrane's last words. You have 9.3 years. I hope you find meaning in your remaining time. They had found meaning, all right. They had found it in defiance and innovation, in the stubborn human refusal to accept defeat. The Galactic Union had 9 years to learn what humanity already knew. They had written off the wrong species. The universe had thrown its worst at Earth, and Earth was throwing it right back. The cascade was coming, and humanity was ready, not to die with dignity as Thrane had suggested, but to fight with fury, to innovate with desperation, and to prove that sometimes being abandoned by the galaxy was the best thing that could happen to a species. 7.5 years remained. That was enough time to transform proof of concept into salvation. That was enough time to save a world. And if they failed, if the cascade consumed Earth despite everything they tried, at least they would fail as humans had always failed, fighting until the very last moment, refusing to go quietly, making sure the universe remembered them. But Elena didn't think they would fail. She had seen her crew's faces during the test. She had felt the ship shudder as they bent reality to their will. She had watched the cascade, unstoppable for 14,000 years, curve away from human defiance. The galaxy had turned its back on Earth. Fine. Earth didn't need the galaxy. They had each other, they had 9 years. And they had something the Galactic Union had lost somewhere in their millions of years of civilization. They had the fire that comes from having nothing left to lose and everything to fight, for they had humanity. And that, Elena thought as Earth grew larger in the viewing screen, had always been enough. The end.